gold standard.
We're live.
You see that background, Mike Scott? That is the gold standard.
Oh, let's do it. Let's just get this party started. Mr. Anthony Figaro.
Look, this boy's looking professional, son.
Because I have something else I need to share, Anthony. I have questions. I have questions for you.
Ask me no questions and I'll tell you no lies.
I hope you have the answers.
I gotta say this, man.
That's a crawfish.
Yeah,
I was asking what a crawfish is.
That's a mud bug. That's a water insect. He got the big claws on him. He lives in the mud. You pull him out, him and his brothers, and you put him in a pot. And then you boil him. That is the gold standard. And then you put the seasoning in there with the potatoes and the corn. You put a little sausage in there. You know, a little garlic too. You know, and then you stir them up. Stir them up. Then you boil them. And then you pour them on the table. See, that's the pot right there. You boil them. That's all the crawfish in there. There's all his brothers and sisters. Even got some cousins in there too. Stir them up. Then you boil them. And then you bathe them in that little tub right there. You see that? You give them a little bath and wash all that little dirt off of them. Because they can all look nasty swimming in that mud. And you wash it all off of them like that. And then you see that pot right there. You're going to boil it up and you're going to drop them right in there. And you're going to put your little seasoning in there. Make them nice and spicy. Look at them. Look at how pretty. That's the finished one right there. See that right? You got that red. Ooh, man, he good. Man, you crack him like that. You suck that head. You eat that meat out that tip, man.
I feel like we should be paying for this entertainment, don't you?
Joe, they got the tails is already. They get the poop out of it and everything.
That's some good shit.
For sure. Stir them up. Then you boil them.
Welcome to the show, everybody.
Welcome.
Good to see you guys. Let's stop sharing that. I was so disappointed that I couldn't get that going last week. I felt like I owed it to everybody to get it going today. And thank you, Lord Finatra, who was in the chat, for that phenomenal song. Puts a smile on my face every time I hear it.
Truly amazing.
Let's see who we've got today. Inkfinity Comics. Good to see you, Leandro. Jose Garcia. Welcome, my friend. Mr. Von Stugel. Amanda B. Jasper Plan 9. The comic book black belt himself, Mr. Russ Leach. George Travelos, good to see you, George. Thanks for joining us, you guys. I Borrow Ideas, good to see you, my friend. Oh, Jasper says that Only Death Can Save Us came in the mail this week.
Oh, good. I hope you like it.
That's great. Oh, Leroy.
I love Leroy.
Bad influence. So,
did you see that? Sorry, just before we start, did you see that Jasper Plan 9? Whoa. Noticed a notification Marvel is leaving Diamond. Just like DC did. What? The whole world has just opened up, everybody.
Oh my goodness.
The whole world has just opened up.
It's almost like the comeback will not be greater than the setback.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike the message on the shirts that Diamond has been selling since last year. Now, I applaud the optimism. It's sincerely, and I have no ill will toward Diamond as far as their, ability to run a business goes. But the old way of doing things was filled with problems for decades, and it seemed like no matter how many times different people tried to say, we've got to get the innovation going here. We've got to modernize. We've got to do things differently from the way they were before, because times have changed so much. You can't just keep trying to do business the way you did in the 90s just because it worked back then.
I love comic shops, but funneling all comics through comic shops only restricted the market and broke the audience. Simple as that. It was a restrictive practice that didn't really... it certainly didn't improve the business, as in the industry, the comic book industry. It didn't help it in one way, any way whatsoever. So, like I say, I love comic book shops and I want them to continue. But we need to have comics everywhere. And that, whether that's in 7-Elevens or whether it's on the internet and you can crowdfund a book, it doesn't matter. But people should be aware of comics and have a way to get to them as easy as possible.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Oh! It's just showed up in New York City. Amazing.
Yeah, did you send a little something over to Leroy's way?
Thank you very much, Leroy, for backing the book. Several people backed the book, actually. A couple of weeks ago, I got a little bump. I'll call it the Fultonland bump. How's that?
I like to say, I think I'd like to call it the Fulton Fuel.
The Fulton Fuel, I like that.
The
I like that a
Fulton
lot.
Fuel gave a boost to the campaign.
Yeah, very nice. So I'm on 221. I'd really like to see 250 back as if I possibly could for the first book. I've already smashed my expectations. I was hoping for 150 backers, and I've gone to 221. I set a reasonable bar. I wouldn't say it was a very low bar. It was a reasonable bar, because you've got to make sure you've got the right amount of money to get a book produced. You've got to be sensible about it. But it wasn't too high, and I've absolutely smashed that. So if I go through 250, I will double the target, and I'll certainly get past the 13k as far as dollars are concerned. Proper American dollars, not those horrible Australian dollary do things. real universal worldwide finances in dollars. So things have gone really well. I'm really pleased, and I've heard a lot of good responses. So hopefully we can continue on, and as more people see more work of the Outliers, they'll be hungry for more of my stuff and more of our stuff, because that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I think they will, and I think 250 backers is definitely within reach. I think as we continue over the next several months and we show more of your work, we're going to be getting into drawing pages here pretty soon.
Yeah, that's where we're going.
We've continued to do work for the official style guide, and we're going to show you guys some more work from that today. We've got more finished character illustrations that are going into the style guide. We'll show those off, and we'll also talk a little bit about the story in volume 1, and I'll show you where some of the inspiration came from, and we'll do a little show and tell on some of Russ's book, Only Death Can Save Us, because a few of the panels in that book are exactly the sort of thing that I had planned for the opening to the Outliers. And so we'll show you guys how, kind of the direction that we're going and how we're going to kick things off. So I just want to thank you guys again for joining. Say good morning to Skip. Glad you could join us. Although at your time I guess it's still morning for you, right, Skip? You're in Arizona. And George wants to know, what's the bump called on Leroy's channel? he's gotten referrals from his streams. Is that the Leroy Lump? I don't know.
Lump sounds good.
I Borrow Ideas is asking. Oh, it just jumped. He's asking Russ, do you know what time you'll be on the auction?
Yes, but not off the top of my head because I have a
Okay.
terrible memory. Give me 2 seconds. I'll go take a look.
Is that on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it
27th?
is. Yeah, I think it
Okay.
is. Yeah. Do. See, it's more than a couple of days ahead, so I kind of wait until then to refresh my memory.
Okay.
There we go. I'm on between 8 to 10 Eastern Standard Time.
PM?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything going on in the morning, as far as I'm aware.
Okay. I haven't gotten a chance to look at that. I mean, every time I see someone mention it, I try to retweet it. But I haven't seen the breakdown as far as the actual schedule, just the day.
I've got a piece from 1994 on there.
Really?
Yeah, my first submission to Marvel.
Oh, nice.
Which was a successful submission, but didn't succeed in getting me any work, unfortunately. And some bits and pieces from Draw the Marvel Way.
George is asking if it's possible for you to show preview of some of the items you'll be auctioning off.
Yeah, I can do that. While I'm looking for that, do we want to get back on track as far as the order of the show?
Yeah, while you're looking for that, I'll say that. Oh, it looks like they're saying they think it's 8 a.m. So I
better check.
Yeah, is Shay hosting it on her channel?
I think it is. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, the track that we played, Crawdaddy, the gold standard. Most, if not all of you, were aware that Lord Finatra pulled that together using clips from a show on Michael Bancroft's channel when Anthony Figueroa was the guest. And he was the first guest on this channel on the Fultonland live show last week. And I got some feedback from some people, mostly positive. They really enjoyed the show. Some negative because of the excessive use of profanity. And I'm going to take responsibility for that one. I had intended before the show started to chat briefly with Russ and Anthony and say, Outlier Comics, I'm building it up as a family-friendly brand, and I want to do the same with Fultonland because Fultonland is tied so closely to Outlier Comics. And the way I look at it is YouTube is a 13 and up platform, 13 years of age or older. And so I want to try and establish a more or less a PG-13 vibe for the show and the Fultonland channel. And my hope is that not only with interacting with people who are, whether they're CG or they may not consider themselves CG, but they're into indie comics and they have no problem hanging out with those of us who are in CG or whatever it is. I'm also planning on trying to reach out and bring over people who really don't have anything to do with comics normally. And I'm hoping that by reaching out through this platform and bringing them over, I can introduce them to what we're doing with publishing through Outlier Comics, and then through that I can introduce them to Russ's work and then everybody else's books, that we're doing, especially in the crowdfunding space, but also just comics in general. And so with those things in mind, I want to try to make the platform accessible to as many people as possible. And So again, please don't blame Anthony. I take that one on the chin. I should have not allowed myself to get distracted by technical difficulties, and it just totally slipped my mind to have that discussion before the show started. So, moving forward, I will endeavor to make that clear to guests before we bring them on the show. So, with that said, we want to do some outlier specific chatting with you guys today. And we want to reveal some new artwork and give you guys some character origins and also talk a little bit about the story in Outliers Volume 1. So, before we do that, we're going to show off what George requested, which was a preview.
These are the pieces I've got. So, I have some others, but I just thought I'd keep it just to I think it's 4 or 5 pieces. So that's an uncollected convention sketch. So you can see it's 8.5 by 11.5 inches.
Nice.
I've got some pencils from Draw the Marvel Way. So it's a bigger piece, but obviously it doesn't fill the whole of the page. It's 11 3/4 by 16.5. There's a Spider-Man. This is from the first graphic novel I ever got published back in 2014, and is the pencils for a pin-up within it. It was a horror, sort of a Cthulhu stroke Victoriana kind of horror thing. And then this is my first submission to Marvel, where I did a whole. In fact, my first submission to Marvel was Ghost Rider, and they said, "Yeah, that's really good, but can you do it to a script that we give you?" And they gave me a script from the X-Men, and this was the cover, and then there were 8 pages inside or something.
Nice.
So that's that. That's them.
Cool. Well, we've got some
$3.50 confirmed.
We've got some praise here for your work there.
Do a Wolverine sketch for George.
I guess if you DM him, Leroy.
Yeah, I'm always there.
Yeah, he'll let you know.
I'm always there.
Oh, I guess George doesn't like Wolverine.
No, George doesn't like Wolverine.
Uh-oh. Okay, let's get on with the show. We've got some characters that we've shown off previously. We saw the Saint, whose real name is David Santos. We have seen Misperception, whose real name is Stephanie Weiss. We have seen Minimart, whose real name is Martin Daschle, aka Marty. We've seen Terrence Hightower, also known as High T. Let's show the good folks Night Falcon, shall we?
Okay. There he is.
Okay. So this guy his name is James Edgerton. His code name is Night Falcon. And he's sort of like a cross between Batman and Iron Man, in the sense that he's got no superpowers on his own, and he uses a power suit to be able to go toe-to-toe with Outliers who do have superhuman abilities. And he's got a similar origin to Bruce Wayne and Tony Stark, in the sense that he's extraordinarily wealthy. He was raised in privilege, but he also has some tragedy in his backstory. It's not going to be focused on so heavily as the murder of Bruce Wayne's parents. It's not like that at all. Um, Leroy asked if he's rich. Yes, he's extraordinarily rich. He's similar to Tony Stark, to a lesser degree Bruce Wayne, but more along the lines of Tony Stark. He is a essentially a polymath, and in other words, he is extraordinarily intelligent, but also has aptitudes in several different areas. So he went to the best schools due to his parents being wealthy enough to afford them, but he earned his way in there with his intellectual abilities. He's got degrees in mechanical engineering and electrical engineering. He's graduated school early, and actually, as part of his graduate work, he developed a couple of technological breakthroughs that he patented, and it's what he used to build his own wealth rather than inheriting it from his parents. And he developed a couple of things that are in wide use by the time that the Outliers Volume 1 opens up. One is what they call an actuator, which is a type of thing that, like it makes the blades come out of his boots. It makes the talons come out of his gloves. Those are widely used around the world, and his company and he personally makes billions in licensing royalties, licensing revenues off of that. And then he also invented what I'm calling kinetically charged batteries, or kinetically self-charging batteries. And the way they work is that kinetic motion is converted to electrical energy. And so as the batteries expend energy, they're also recharged simultaneously like an alternator in a car. And so it's not quite perpetual 0 point energy, but it's a lot closer than anything we have in the real world. And so he uses this technology not just to sell to government institutions and high-tech companies, but he also has built up his own portfolio of companies. Some are very large, like he's got the biggest and most successful what they call bleeding edge technology research and design company in the world. So bleeding edge technology is the stuff that's just being discovered and just being developed. It's always out there on the front in terms of discoveries are concerned. And so he's got that going for him, and it's how he gets his materials. A lot of his knowledge is stuff he's developed on his own, but he also benefits from the R&D work of his company. So he's able to develop things like this power suit. And what we'll see as we get into the Outliers, kind of where they live and their training facility and all of that stuff in Chapter 2 of Volume 1, a lot of his and his company's technology is utilized by the U.S. government in the building of this facility where they house and they train Outliers. Welcome, Vanessa. Glad you could join the show. So if we can we move the picture a little bit, Russ, to show the there we go, the talons. So he's got on his fingertips, he's got those talons, and he basically, the way the suit works is that there's this neural net interface which is based on real world technology that exists now and has for a little while, where neuroscience has developed a way in the real world to take neural impulses from the human brain and translate those into commands to operate things like prosthetic limbs. So James Edgerton is able to take that kind of to the next level, and he's got this neural net interface which, if you look at the Marvel movies where Iron Man has his Jarvis interface, where he tells Jarvis what to do and then Jarvis does it, or I guess it's Friday in the later movies after Jarvis becomes integrated with Vision, and then Tony comes up with this new AI, Friday. But anyway, the point is that he's got to tell that AI what to do, and then the AI does it. With this neural net interface that Night Falcon uses, basically he just thinks what he wants the suit to do, and it does it. And like I said, it's based on real world technology, so I'm not sure how far we'll get into the details of that in the course of time. If people are interested in it, then we can certainly go into it further. It might be the type of thing where when we come out with our version of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, because that is something I do have planned. That might be the type of thing that we explore in a little bit more detail. Things like that neural net interface and how it works with the suit. But basically, when this is colored, you'll see that it's a black and gray suit. He likes to work at night, and he essentially became a vigilante through reasons that will be revealed in the story. And once his presence became known by the government, they decided to recruit him for work with the Outliers. And little did they know that he's also responsible for a lot of the technology that they use in the Defense Department and elsewhere. So he's considered to be an extremely valuable ally from the government's perspective.
Right. Sounds cool. I enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, he's gonna, and I can tell you guys that in chapter 1, he's going to be presented with a situation where he'll wish that he had the ability to fly, because when the book first opens up, he does not have that, and there's going to be a time jump between chapter 1 and chapter 2 of 30 days. So basically, between each chapter of the story, there'll be a 30-day interval of time where, time passes, and then when the next chapter starts up, it'll be 30 days from when the previous chapter ended. So something will happen in chapter 1 that will convince him that he really should have flight capability with his suit. And then we'll get to see where that takes him from there in chapter 2.
Right. Where are we going next?
Next, let's see. I think we showed pencils of Dennis, our werebear, last week, but I don't think we've shown inks.
There you go.
So, yeah, that's him in his normal human form. As part of the genetic experimentation that was done on him and the group of people he grew up with, he was raised to be more or less like a super soldier type, the peak of human development, some slight superhuman increases to his strength and speed and whatnot. And when I say slight, I'm talking about he might be able to do a vertical leap of 8 to 10 feet. He might be able to press, 1 ton over his head, but he's not going to be able to pick up a tank and throw it. He's not the Incredible Hulk. But then, as a result of some of his his natural genetics, which he happens to be part of a group of people that have some Denisovan human DNA mixed in with Homo sapien DNA, and this is all real world stuff as well. If you want to look it up, anybody who's interested in anthropology, that's how you spell it, Denisovan. So in the world of the Outliers, what has happened is that because of his Denisovan DNA mixed with the typical Homo sapien DNA, when he was exposed to the particles in the meteorites that bombarded the Earth, which is what the exposure to those particles in those meteorites is what prompted the emergence of superpowers around the world. And because the lab where he was at, they had been mixing bear DNA with human DNA to produce this super soldier type of person. And then when you have that mixed with the Denisovan DNA and then he's exposed to these particles, that's where his ability to transform into the werebear comes from. So in the middle figure, we see him kind of not quite mid transformation, maybe at the beginning of his transformation. We see that he's starting to grow claws, fangs. His strength is increasing as he's beginning to change. And we'll see in chapter 1 what it's like to go against this guy in his normal form, and then in this middle figure, what it's like to go against him as he's transforming. And then if you want to show the bear form, and then we'll show what it's like to go against him when he's completely transformed.
Grar.
Yeah. So chapter 1 is all about the Outliers team on their first mission, which is essentially to capture this guy and bring him back to the Outliers facility where their bosses can essentially debrief him, find out why he's in the U.S., because he is in the U.S. illegally, and he came from this very mysterious research facility that the U.S. government believes was used to do highly unethical genetic experimentation. And clearly this guy has been affected in ways that give him superhuman abilities. So the U.S. government wants to know, one, why is he in the U.S.? And then two, what was done to him? And then three, how can they replicate it? Because that would be something that they would want to get their hands on. So they want this guy for research purposes, but also to keep him away from the general populace unless they can determine that he's not a threat. So the Outliers are sent into the northern woods of Maine to capture this guy, whose name is Dennis, and bring him in and let the scientists study him. But he doesn't want to make it easy on the Outliers, and so they find that they've got their hands more than full trying to take him down. And chapter 1 is titled Rookie Mistakes, because we've got a team full of rookies that are on their first mission, and they're going to find that things don't go as smoothly as they assumed that they would.
Okay.
I think we had what was... Did we ever show the inked version of Bombshell?
I thought we did.
Okay. All right.
Yes, she is.
Oh, yeah, there she is. George says he really likes the name of the Outliers. Thanks, George. I appreciate that. I wanted to come up with something that was different from mutant or metahuman or anything else that had been described that I had seen or heard describing superhuman people. So I figure that in this world, people with superpowers, even though they're not exceedingly rare, they're also not exceedingly common. So you've got the general human population, and then you've got these superhumans, and then people who can do superhuman things, like Night Falcon. He can do it through his power suit, and they get classified as outliers because they are, separate and apart from the general human population. So yeah, that's as Russ is kind of going through the illustrations there. I'll just say that Bombshell is a villain, and we will see her appear in Chapter 2 of Volume 1.
Cool. I'm really looking forward to getting into the pages now.
Yeah, it's Chapter 1 it's a very action-packed story. It'll be 24 pages. Every chapter is 24 pages, and each chapter will start with something that I call a prologue page, and I'll show you guys. I'm opening up Russ's book, Only Death Can Save Us, and I'm going to blow this up here. So this is Russ's book, Only Death Can Save Us, and one of the things that he did, which I had intended on doing with the Outliers, is that every chapter of the Outliers is going to start with one of these splash pages that has the title up at the top. It says Only Death Can Save Us, Book 1, Keystone. So we'll do something similar where it'll say The Outliers, Chapter 1, Rookie Mistakes. And then you'll have a splash page. And then down at the bottom, down here, you've got credits. And this is very common back in the older eras of comic book history. I think the Bronze Age ones were the best, personally, in terms of the creativity and the different ways that they incorporated credits into the page. Sometimes they did special treatments on the chapter titles. So that'll give you an idea of the kind of the prologue page, which will give you a snapshot of what the essence is of the chapter you're about to read. And I'm going to give you guys a couple of hints as to what you can expect. One of these panels is pretty similar to what I've got in mind for the composition of the first page. If you look at this panel down here, we've got Death, and he's just delivered a haymaker to his enemy up here, and he's going flying toward the reader. And we're going to do something like that in Outliers, but we're also going to combine another element which Russ did on this page. Let's see. This page, where he's got, if you look towards the spine of the book, there are some background characters. Come on, focus.
I've got that image up if you want to.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's better.
So that's the original. That's the splash at the start.
Yeah, that was the splash page.
There's this one. This is where you can see the
Yep.
background figures all wanting to get into the fight, being shocked by it, or this guy down here is scared for himself.
Yeah. So you've got different characters reacting to the focus of the page, which is the two characters in the foreground.
And then
So- Yep. That one. Yeah, where he delivers that haymaker, and then his enemy goes flying towards the reader.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome to the show. Hex Allen Comics, Zaid Comics, Statistical Zero. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, so this is, and so Russ, if you don't mind, could you just run through a couple of the influences that you and I both are drawing from when you draw panels like this, and when I'm kind of putting together how I want the first page to look like?
Yeah, I mean, so much of it's from Bronze Age work. You could say the Bronze Age sort of went from late 60s, early 70s, all the way through to potentially the early 90s. Really, there was still a lot of influence, although you get those Jim Lee inspired styles in the mid 90s. They still had a lot of roots in what had gone before them. They were trying to mix it up and do other things, but they were still using the bombastic nature of splash pages. It kind of went too far, and they went for just the art instead of telling the story. At one point during the 90s, that's where it went. But the essence of telling stories in a very bombastic, energetic way was what it was all about. And I think there was a little bit more focus on the energy and the art rather than the story when you got to the mid 90s. But it was still a theme that was running through. And if you go back and look at the books from the Bronze Age, you can see how the story's told, and at the same time still make a very visually enticing book. A lot of my influences are from that time, mainly people like John Buscema, Sal Buscema, Jim Starlin. But all kinds. There's too many names to pick out, really, because they were all doing that. They all had that feel. They were all telling a story extremely well, but at the same time making it very energetic. This particular panel, although it isn't an homage panel or anything like that, but there were several panels that I had in my mind. One of them in particular is a Hercules versus Thor panel, where Hercules hits Thor up in the air, and of course it's completely ridiculous that this guy is turned this way towards the reader. That's not the way it would have worked. Right. Something that I used to do was maybe try and draw the character leaning backwards with his head tipped back, and that may well be the most realistic reaction physically and gravitationally to a punch like that. But it doesn't make for a particularly interesting panel.
Right.
Yeah. So what you got to do is you got to when you look back at the way that they produced anatomy back then in the Bronze Age, they did it in such a way, as to, particularly John Buscema, did it in such a way that you could get away with all kinds of things that didn't work in the real world, but absolutely worked in the panels of a comic book, yet still adhering to the reality of anatomy and gravity. So that's where it all comes from. That's all stems from. And I can't say that I'm going to change, to be honest. I'm not changing I'm not changing up. Something I am going to do for this book, and it may be something that I take into Only Death Can Save Us book 2, is do a lot more traditional artwork. So you can see all those turnarounds have all been inked traditionally. So what I do is I draw digitally and then print them out and then ink traditionally. And that way I get the best of both worlds. I get the best of the digital aspects of not having to do an awful lot of the paffing about that you have to do when you're drawing with photocopies and all other bits and pieces on a light box. I've actually fitted my drawing board as just wood now. So I've taken off the set square, I've taken off all the old stuff, and I got myself a piece of ply cut to size, and I laid it down, so it's just an ink board now. So I get the best of both worlds, and something that I was looking for in Only Death Can Save Us, which I got a lot of, was a kind of look to the art that it ended up being a little bit too clean. So and what I'm getting now is I'm getting that out of the traditional inking. So there will be digital art in Only Death Can Save Us, but there will be a fair chunk of traditional stuff in there as well. And the reason I'm leaning on the digital art is because I want to get the books out quickly. And it is a quicker process. There's no doubt about it. So I'll be doing a mix of all kinds of things, but it will mean that people can get original art if they want it. And in actual fact, this piece is brushed. This is not digital art.
Nice.
This is an actual inked piece that I did because I think somebody's actually got this somewhere. I think somebody owns this, or maybe this is the one that didn't get bought. Actually, this is the last of the pieces that didn't get purchased.
Oh, okay.
But I can show you another one that did get purchased, which is not a dissimilar panel.
While you're looking for that, George asked, he says he likes the colors, and he asks, who's the colorist?
I am the colorist for this one. So that one's an original, and that did go. I think that went out to Todd, actually.
Nice.
And so he got that piece.
Mr. Struth.
Yeah. I went for the colors on this. The reason I did that, I wanted to do everything because I didn't want to pay anybody anything. That's in actual fact that it's not about not paying other people. It's the fact that I didn't want to get involved to a point where I was in lieu of other people. I had to make sure that I could get it done, and get it done for the right price.
Right.
So I decided that I was going to do the whole thing myself, and at the same time, I wanted a particular look. So I didn't go and get another. I know that other colorists could have done a great job with my inks, but I wanted to have a simple retro look for this book particularly. So I went for the flat colors with just highlights and lowlights, and I kept it as simple as possible. I will be employing a flatter for the next book because I'm going to have to pump it out a lot quicker than I got this one out. Yeah. So I'll be able to see where I got things wrong and get other people involved. Certainly, my writer is now the co-writer, where he was just doing dialogue and a few plot points before. He's now the co-writer, and he's off doing the plot right at the moment after we've had a meeting about it. So
nice.
It's great to get more people involved. I'm really enjoying what I've done, and hopefully I'll get out to more people. But yeah, I'll only be doing the highlights and lowlights on the next one. I'll get somebody else to do the flats. But yeah, more traditional artwork. What can I say?
Yeah, speaking of
really enjoyed it.
Traditional artwork. Leroy says, if you name drop a bunch of old people, chances of George backing your book increase. Well, in that case, I'm going to name drop Russ Leach because I have a piece of original art right here. Let's see.
Well, but the writer on my book is a guy called Rick Hoskin, and I think he run the Dragon Audience Award, which is apparently a fairly prominent award, and he's worked for all kinds of people: Disney, Marvel, DC, all kinds of people. So he'll be very involved in the writing of book 2 and 3. We've already cast the net as to where that's going now.
So this is a piece that Russ penciled digitally and then inked traditionally. And this is how every page of the Outliers Volume 1 is going to be produced. And original art pages will be offered for sale during the campaign. And I'm also going to be thinking of different ways to give people opportunities to win original artwork at no cost to them. And I've got to kind of look into how I can do that while still following IndieGoGo's rules of no lottery, no gambling, that sort of thing.
I've got
go ahead.
I've got another piece here. This is from the Indie Vault book that's up at the moment.
Let's get you.
I did exactly the same deal on this. There's digital pencils and original brushwork, traditional brushwork. So, and like I say, I think I've still got one left from the first book. But I'll offer that up at some point.
Sweet. Probably not on the upcoming auction, though, correct?
No, it's not available at the upcoming auction. No, we'll see how the auction goes, and if people are interested in my artwork, then maybe I'll offer it for another one, or maybe I'll put it up as a one-off perk up on because I've got like one piece left, and like I say, I'm trying to entice people to come in and see the first book still, because it's still up in demand. So I could just put a tier up and say one last piece of artwork left, and put it up for that. So
there you go.
I think I might do that. Yeah.
Let me just put that page back someplace safe.
Patches.
Okay. Leroy thinks every single stretch goal should be patches. Yeah, we can look into that. No promises.
I really like the I did the magnets.
Mm-hmm.
They were really nice. I think that's something I might do for the next book. I might get 6 a.m. if he's still available to do some more chibi artwork, and maybe get all 4 of the horsemen on magnets. That might be quite cool. That would be quite cool, and get a collection of magnets.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know people like the extras. It's sort of, the audience is split, isn't it? Some people really like the extras, and some people just want the book. So I think if you make it so that people can just buy the book if they want, and then put the extras in, I think we said a couple of weeks back, I'm going to be. I think Ink Spots may well be helping me out on this, and I'm going to be pestering somebody else as well to do a special print, so that the first 200 people to back the book gets the print. So it just is. The other thing is, obviously, that will be notified via the email system, so that effectively people who bought the first book will be, rewarded by saying, look, you can have this extra if you jump in, so obviously you want to keep the people that you've already sold a book to as happier than anyone else.
Yeah I want to be doing the same sort of thing with the Outliers campaign. I want to have some little goodies that are unannounced during the campaign. People discover them when they open up the package. I like that. I've been as a customer, I've been on the receiving end of that, and it's been cool. Hey Nefarious, welcome to the show. Glad you could join us. So I'd like to do that for the campaign, and then I'd also like to do an exclusive offer. People, I'm toying with the idea of 2 different exclusives at the beginning. One would be, it's only advertised through the mailing list, and so everybody on the list, if they back the book, they get that free of charge, but it's not offered anywhere else on the campaign. And then I'm thinking of offering another exclusive that would be available within the first 48 hours of the campaign, so that if, I'm in Pacific time in the US, and if somebody is in Australia or Indonesia or Singapore, then they might not find out within my first 24 hours about that the campaign has launched. And so I was thinking, if I make it 48 hours, then that more or less gives everyone around the globe a minimum of a 24-hour window in their own time zone where they have an opportunity to back the book and then get that exclusive. Yeah,
it gives everyone a chance day one. Yeah, definitely. I do like the idea of putting stuff in that people aren't expecting. I mean, I did that with mine. So I popped the I was going to do a patch, but I didn't get to the stretch goal. And there was also a second print, and I didn't get to the stretch goal. But I put the patch onto the magnet, and I printed up the print anyway, and I sent them out to everybody. And people were really pleased with the extras. They just thought, oh well, I got this. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
And you get a fuzzy feeling, don't you, when you get something you weren't expecting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. George says, don't make it too hard to fulfill. Exclusives are great, but it'll be hard to track. Yeah, it's a good point, George. I'm going to use a fulfillment service with my campaigns for two reasons. One, I don't have the space in my home to run fulfillment. And the second one is that I've got some chronic health problems. The worst one for fulfilling campaigns being a bad back.
Yeah.
So it would take me probably 6 months minimum if I was going to try to fulfill a campaign out of my house, even if I had the room, and I'd be in absolute misery the entire time from all of the extra back pain. So I'm going to have to use a fulfillment service. But that being said, George, your point is still well taken, because the more that is added into the campaign, those are more variables and then more points of failure potentially. So it's the sort of thing where when I'm looking at fulfillment services, I'm going to already have in mind what I want to be offering to backers, and then I want to try and come up with ways to minimize the chance for problems arising in the fulfillment. So a lot of my discussion with fulfillment companies will be, these are the things I want to offer. Can you handle that? And then if so, what sort of processes do you have in place to make sure that people get the stuff that they ordered and they don't get stuff that they didn't order? So we'll see how it goes, but yeah, the fulfillment it's such a critical component, and yet it's the one thing that almost everybody I've heard campaign owners talk about. It was the thing that they either described as they didn't like at all, or they liked it the least, because usually you've got creative people who are running these campaigns and they'd rather be doing creative work, and obviously fulfilling, packing up bundles and then mailing them out. There's not a whole lot of creativity, and there is a whole lot of monotony that goes in with that, right?
Yeah. Folding boxes does take some time. I think if you're under 500, there is a woman here. Yes. I think if you're under 500, you're probably okay to do it yourself. But anything over that, I think you're starting to stretch yourself too far. We did 180 books in 2.5 weeks, and I was quite pleased with that. So and then the rest of it sort of tailed off afterwards. But we got ourselves a system together. That's me and my wife. That's the woman that made me a sandwich earlier. We got a system together so that we would go out in the morning and post, and in the evening we would package, and it meant that I still had a working day. And she's actually said to me next time round she'd be prepared to just take a couple of days off work, as it were, and do a full time to do it for a week or two. So she's totally in on the team, as it were, on the Only Save Us team, and that helps. We don't have the biggest house in the world either, but we did have I've managed to store the remainder of my books, and so they're available to get to at any moment in time. I have packaging stored as well, and of course all this, it's not just about not being creative. It's and having to stuff boxes full of comics, as it were. You've also got to think about budgets. It's a business. You really have to see the whole thing, and the more you see it as a business, the happier your customer is going to be, the happier the backer is going to be, because you've put the right effort into it. If all you see it as a creative endeavor, then there's every chance that you can upset the people that have joined you in it by backing you. Whereas if you see it as a business, then there's more chance of them getting a good product and a great service at the end of the day.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. it's one of those things where, as a project owner, and if you're, especially when you're you've got the whole creative part of it, which usually there's a long run up to the launch of the campaign where you're doing all this creative work, and you're doing some administrative work because that's required for planning these campaigns. And then you've got the promotion part of it. There's very little creativity involved with that. So you've got this big run of promotional work that you're doing. And then you've got the fulfillment stage. Again, very little creative work there. So when you analyze the whole thing from end to end, most of it is doing work that is not creative in nature. And so, you have been very candid on multiple shows about what it was like to go through the different phases of the campaign. I'm curious if, for anybody who might be in the chat or might be watching the replay of this and is going to be doing their own first time campaign, do you have maybe one, at most two lessons learned from the run up period to the launch, and then the promotion during the campaign, and then the fulfillment afterward?
Yeah, start with an email list as early as you possibly can. I would say that's a definite. You don't have to be a big channel. I think you just have to be available and approachable. So I don't have a massive channel. I've just got up to 680 subs. Pretty much 99% of what I put on my channel is art. So it's production process, like, see how I did this, see how I did that. Maybe it worked for you. Here's my views on how this works. Rather than talking about the industry in general. I drop my own opinions occasionally, but it's mostly production. So I don't have a massive channel, but I did make myself available. So and that doesn't mean talking about your book all the time. It just means going and speaking to people, answering questions, getting involved, talking to other creators, putting something back, and this isn't just, I'm only doing this so that I can get it back. And, take an active part in seeing indie creators out there. So I was, reposting only stuff that I like, I'll be honest. I tend not to repost art I don't like. But also, if you've had a conversation with someone and they're a thoroughly decent sort, and something comes up in your timeline, and you're going to repost it, you're going to retweet it, and do that kind of stuff. So I think that's a lesson. Although I was doing it, it's definitely a valuable thing to reiterate to other people. Get involved, be a part of it, and be available. You don't have to have a massive channel, but you do need to be transparent and available. And approachable, so that the people can like you. Don't think, look, you don't want people to buy your book because they like you. You want people to buy your book because they like the look of your book. But if they can't connect with you, then they're probably not going to go and look. So there's those ways of looking at it. I think from a business perspective, I'm not going to say I did everything right, but I certainly had the right head on, if you know what I mean. So I budgeted everything. I went and researched my postage costs. I went and researched the amount of money I'd need to spend for packaging. I weighed all my packaging and all my contents together. Just get as much reference as possible. Do as much research as you possibly can. Okay, and that's all I can say about the business aspect. Keep a note of all the money that you're spending. Keep an Excel sheet. Unfortunately, like I was saying earlier, you do have to treat it as a business. It's not just a creative project. You've got to come at it from a perspective of If you come at it from a perspective of this is just my creative project, then all it is a hobby with some cash applied to it. If you come at it from a perspective of this is a business, endeavor, then what you're going to do is you're going to make the product as good as you can possibly make it because you want to sell it. And then because of that, you're going to make the sales process, you're going to make the back-end process, the delivery, and everything about it as good as you possibly can. I was complimented lots of times about the packaging and how I presented the book and how people got it. And that's just as important as the book because people feel like they're being taken care of. So they are more open to enjoying the book. You know, if they get a book and it's in a tatty box and they open it up and it's a little bit crumpled on the corners and they can see the box, they can see it's been reused. Like it's somebody else's box that they've reused, and they're I'm going to open it and put it to one side. I'll read that later. If you get a box, like for instance, I did the label. Anthony was saying, "Oh, I really like your label." I made a graphic label with the character on the front. I'm actually thinking of getting some logo tape next time as well, because I think that looks really nice. And it was, it was bubble wrapped as well as sealed and boarded, bagged and boarded. And it just meant that when people opened the box, they thought, oh, this has had some care taken over it. So if I've been taking care of it, that obviously means that I'm taking care of them. These are all these little subliminal messages, and it's all about, treating people properly and making a good business decision.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. So for people who have never gone through promoting a campaign before, what is there one particular thing that stands out in your mind, either that you learned during the process that you don't think you could have predicted, or maybe you did predict and then it was confirmed as you went through it?
I'm going to be careful here because I don't want to be rude about other people. If you're going to use other artists or creators or writers, anything, if you're going to work with someone else, make sure you have contracts with them and make sure that you do things up front. So if you're going to commission a piece of work from them, get it sorted out really early on, and don't put it in your campaign until it is done. I fell foul of that for one reason or another. There's nobody particularly to blame. Events happen, but and as it happened, I substituted with something that people really seemed to like. And thanks to some advice from yourself, I notified people, and they were very. I effectively got a good response because nobody batted an eyelid. They just went, "Yeah, okay, fine, that'll do." Just be careful if you're gonna get your assets together first. That's all I can say is get everything together. I know you can't necessarily get every pin up together, or you can't necessarily get every piece of artwork, but just know that the be as close as you can to 100% knowing that they will turn up. Okay. Yeah. If there are any doubts, then leave them out of the campaign and maybe make them a surprise later on. That's and even then, that's I don't feel like I can blame myself because I commissioned things very early on and they didn't happen for me. It was only the one thing, and it was just it's circumstance. No one's to blame, but it is something that I won't be doing next time. So there you go.
Okay. And then as far as the fulfillment stage, is there a particular thing that stands out? Either you wish you'd known ahead of time, or you planned for it and it turns out you kind of had figured it out and you were confirmed that, this is definitely the way to go.
I just think the approach, the general approach to it, I couldn't have approached it any differently to the way that I did because my history was not. I'm going to annoy some people now. My history was not a flaky artist. My history has been in business. My history has been in production and in publishing. So my view was, well, this had to be done in a certain way, which meant, you don't let people down. And once you take their money, if you don't give them what you told them you're going to give them, it's fraud. It's pretty black and white in my mind. Yeah. As much as you're crowdfunding, okay, you're still taking people's money
Mm-hmm.
and you're taking their time. They don't get their time back. So no, I think I can't say that I did everything right. Of course, I didn't do everything right. You're always going to find better ways to improve what you've done,
Right.
but certainly the direction. My head was in the right place. I came at it correctly, which is why it got delivered on time. If my head hadn't been in the right place, then it wouldn't have been delivered on time. So I obviously did something right, and I think just approaching it from that business perspective, rather than a creative project, was the key.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Words to live by. You're getting some compliments. The magnet you showed earlier, Russ, of death, the one that 6 a.m. Comics did for you.
What a lovely piece of artwork. That's going on a T-shirt as well. I just haven't done it yet.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Nefarious said he really liked that, and I've gotten from backing a lot of campaigns. I've got a lot of 6 a.m.'s art, and so I've got it in the form of stickers and magnets now with yours. Not sure if I've seen it on a patch yet, but it's one of those things where you I really like seeing that different people are using different ideas, for the same type of artwork, and it just I hope that people who are thinking about doing their own campaigns are paying attention to what other people are offering and paying attention to how customers seem to respond to those type of things, because you can get a lot of market research for free just by paying attention.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so next time round, I think I'll definitely sort of lean into the magnets because people like them, and like a lot of people say, a lot of people have got fridges and they just flip up on the fridge. They're great, or you can put them on your, like I have mine up here on my boom. They're just neat little things. Whereas the patch, in order to make it work, you have to sew it onto something. So you've got a subset of people that like patches and then will actually sew them onto their garments. I think that's quite a small subset. whereas the magnet's a bit more of a mass market item. So
yeah.
That from an accident, that's learning something from the process. So I wasn't too totally aware of that, but I wanted to give something extra to everybody, and I was getting the stickers done anyway, and Sticker Mule did magnets. So I thought, well, why not? It's a great piece of artwork. I've already paid 6 a.m. for it. Everybody's seen it. Everybody loves it.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone should get a piece. But I've run out now, which is nice. So there you go.
I know a lot of people have used Sticker Mule. What was your experience with them?
I had a really good experience with them, I must be honest. They did what they said they were going to do. I think they were a little late. There was a good reason. You got to remember there was, the Coof was in its pomp back then. End of last year, and so they did okay. They did okay, and we got some hot sauce as well because I spent more than a certain amount. So they sent me a bottle of Mule hot sauce.
That's funny. Well, I think that about does it for the show.
Nefarious, you can go to my store on Only Death Can Save Us. There's a little comic book black belt icon on there, and you can click it, and there's a store where you can buy mugs and shirts and stuff. And I'll let everybody know on this show when the shirt's available.
Nice.
Won't be long.
Nice. Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining today. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we hope that you guys can tune in again next week, Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern in the U.S., 10 a.m. Pacific, and we'll do it again.
Yes.
And on our way out, I'm going to share a little treat. Let's see here.
Thanks to everybody in the chat for turning up.
Yeah,
for some sandwich talk.
In case anybody wasn't here at the beginning of the show, here you go.
God, that is the gold standard.
Oh, let's do it. Let's just get this party started. Mr. Anthony Figaro?
Look, this boy's looking professional, son.
Because I have something else I need to share, Anthony. I have questions. I have questions for you. Oh.
Ask me no questions and I'll tell you no lies.
I hope you have the answers.
I gotta say this, man.
That's a crawfish.
Yeah,
I was asking what a crawfish is. Oh.
That's a mud bug. That's a water insect. He got the big claws on him. He lives in the mud. You pull him out, him and his brothers, and you put him in a pot. And then you boil him. Oh. That is the gold standard. And then you put the seasoning in there with the potatoes and the corn. You put a little sausage in there. You know, garlic too. You know, and then you stir them up. Stir them up. Then you boil them. And then you pour them on the table. See, that's the pot right there. You boil them. That's all the crawfish in there. There's all his brothers and sisters. Even got some cousins in there too. Stir them up. Then you boil them. And then you bathe them in that little tub right there. You see that? You give them a little bath and wash all that little dirt off of them. Because they can all look nasty swimming in that mud. And you wash it all off of them like that. And then you see that pot right there. You're going to boil it up and you're going to drop them right in there. And you're going to put your little seasoning in there. Make them nice and spicy. Look at them. Look at how pretty. Yeah, that's the finished one right there. See that right? You got that red. Ooh, man, he good. Man, you crack them like that. You suck that head. You eat that meat out that tip, man.
I feel like we should be paying for this entertainment, don't you?
Joe. Mm-hmm. They got the tails is already. They get the poop out of it and everything.
That's some good shit.
For sure. Stir them up.